Joe Mazzulla should be fucking fired. This is completely unacceptable, dude. I mean, you have the best team in the Eastern Conference all of 3 straight years in a row, even more than that probably, although Missoula's only been there for that long. But out of those 3 years, yeah, you win 1 championship, but the other 2 years out of the 3, you are the best team in the Eastern Conference, and you get eliminated prior to making the finals by a team that's far inferior to you with a home series. They do it against Miami 2 years ago, despite being up double digits in the first 2 games at home. They do it this year, despite being up double digits in the first 2 games at home. Jason Tatum gets hurt in both games. I know I'm not going to blame Missoula for that, but even so, I'm going to blame him for everything else. All this team does is jack up fucking threes. I know they weren't that bad from 3-point range last night, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And this year, it's even more ridiculous. You're up 20 points in each of the first 2 games. You're up double digits in all 4 of the games in the series so far. You have total command of every game. You have the lead throughout the entire series. You're leading almost the entirety of the series, basically. And you only win 1 of those games. Completely unacceptable. And in the first 2 games, it takes a historically bad 3-point shooting percentage to lose those games, and it happens in both games. You have like your worst shooting performance of the year, both games in a row, and all you have to do to hold on to the lead is not just not take shots at the beginning of your possession, take time off the clock, get better shots, drive to the basket. That's all you have to do, not continue to take threes. This is completely unacceptable. And this is even worse because it's against a team that doesn't match up against you well. This Knicks team is a bottom 10 team at defending the 3. So they give up a ton of threes. And again, the only way they can beat you is if you miss all of your threes, which is exactly what happened in those first 2 games. This is a team that you didn't lose to at all this entire season and only lost to 1 time over the last 2 entire seasons. You're a double-digit favorite at home, basically, in both home games in the series. A massive whatever it was, like minus 500 favorite to win the series at the start of the series. It is completely unacceptable. Fuck Joe Mazzulla. Whatever. He says hilarious things in the press conferences. Fire his fucking ass. And by the way, the Red Sox should change their entire management, and Tanner Houck should be out on the fucking street begging for fucking money because nobody fucking gives up 11 runs in 2 1/3 innings twice in less than a month. I don't think it had ever happened before in Major League Baseball, and he does it twice in a month. This guy, whatever, he was an all-star last year. I don't know how that even happened. Out on the street, get rid of him. Let's talk about today. Yesterday, I actually won money, by the way, barely, as I did have a win on the St. Louis, Philadelphia under the total. So that one won. And the loser of the 2, so 1-1 was still a win because the loser of the 2 was the Washington Nationals not getting theirs. They were only down 2-1 going into the 5th inning, so they had a chance to hit that as the underdog. I know you want to hit that. They little Offspring reference there, but they're a bunch of motherfuckers as well because they basically kicked their drummer out for not getting vaxxed. Fuck them. Fuck everything. But yeah, that Washington Nationals play almost hit as well. 1-1 yesterday. I got a ton of baseball today, man. I got, I think, 7 baseball plays here today. So we got to get into it. Enough of this bullshit. NBA, Pacers, Cavs. Yeah, I mean, this is the one that nobody's going to like. I'm going to do the thing that makes the least sense here. The most insane thing, something when you bet, sometimes you want to look like you're completely out of your mind, man. And sometimes that's the best bet. And that's what we're going to go with here. We're going to lay the points of the Cleveland Cavaliers, sitting at an 8-point favorite. Actually, I think you can find them 7.5 right now. 56% of the cash on them, 58% of the tickets coming in on the Pacers. Now, yes, I know Donovan Mitchell. I think he's unlikely to play. Oh, I have 2 dots in there. What are we doing here? Is this Morse code? Hang on. This thing isn't even responding to me there. My apologies. 7.5 on Cleveland is what I can find out there. Now, Donovan Mitchell, Cleveland's best player, might be hurt in this game. Now, if he is, I think that's still fine because that means you get the injured player theory spots. That means the Cavs are going to just step up their game even more in this game, I think, to try to win this game. They're facing elimination. They are the better team. They're still one of the top teams in the NBA at home, and nobody's going to want them because of the way they played in this series. this is the time where you jump on them, man. And they were, 9.5 point favorites in the first couple of games in the series at home. So I think you're getting a bit of value here. And yes, they lost both those games, but I'll talk about that in a second. I think that is going to give them even more motivation here. Now, with the Donovan Mitchell injury, I think the books don't know if he's going to play or not. So they've kind of split the difference here, because I think if he is going to play, this line's going to move up to about 10. If he isn't going to play, it might drop a little bit further down to 6.5, maybe something in that range. 7 is a key number in basketball, because that's the 3-score threshold, where if a team has that deficit, they'll stop intentionally fouling. It's a 3-possession threshold. I don't really care in this case. I mean, I think we can probably grab the number now, although I think it is unlikely that Mitchell is going to play. So maybe this line will actually drop down to a 7. I don't know, but I think you got to get in on Cleveland here, man. Because again, nobody's going to want them. The public is going to be completely off of them based on how they've played in the series. Oh, they haven't won either game at home. They just lost by about 1 million points. I mean, their last game was unbelievably embarrassing. I think they were down by about 50 points in that game at one point. They were down, I believe, 80-39 at halftime in that game. After you have a game that's that embarrassing, and now you're coming back home on the verge of elimination, and the last 2 games you played in this series at home, the only 2 games you played in this series at home, you lost both of them. You're going to be massively motivated. And again, if your best player is out in Mitchell, I think you're going to step up your game even further here if you're the Cavs. The Pacers, I think, might take their foot off the gas a little bit here. Even though, sure, they're going to want to get it done, as you got to have that like killer instinct here when it comes to this finishing these series, especially when you're the inferior team. But I just don't see it. I think Cleveland's going to win this game, man. I think they're going to play a good game here and get this game by margin. So we're going to lay the points with the Cavs in that first game. Nuggets, Thunder. Thunder are sitting at a 10.5-point favorite, up from 10.5 to 10.5 with juice, basically around where they were favored in game 2 here. Obviously, I expect them to win the game. The Nuggets have 69% of tickets, 77% of the cash coming in on them, though. The Nuggets did just lose at home. And yes, the Nuggets have been competitive basically this entire season against the Thunder. This is a 2-2 series, and the regular season was also 2-2 between these two teams, and also with each team winning 1 game on the road and 1 game at home. So this series has actually mirrored the regular season, where all of that was the case. The teams split 1-1 at home, both in the regular season and in this series, which is crazy. But I think this is game 5. Team that wins this game is likely to win the series. I think it's going to be the Thunder, but they're going to have to win by margin if you expect them to cover the spread. And I'm not quite sure that that's going to happen here. So I think I know I'm going to leave this game alone. The total is actually quite low now. The totals in this series were up kind of in the high 220s, I think, prior to this. And now we're looking at 219.5, 220.5 here. Although we do see cash coming in on the under, 51% of the tickets and 77% of the cash. I'm not sure that I would agree with that. I mean, I think the value is kind of on the over here, especially when you're looking at teams that are traveling. And I think they're traveling with only 1 day off out of elevation here. That might have the defenses a little bit tired here. So I'm not quite sure that I would really want to join where it looks like the professional money on the under. I don't think I would want to do that either. Very, very tough read here. And the cash percentages on taking the points of the Nuggets, which again, somewhat makes sense because they have been pretty competitive just throughout this entire season against the Thunder. But the Thunder are the better team. And of course, we do remember the last time they were at home, they played their best game of the entire, maybe of their entire team history, really. But the Nuggets are probably going to remember that. It might be a little bit embarrassed after that. And actually, last game, though, you could take last game both ways, because I had the Thunder in the last game, and they probably should have covered, as they were winning by double digits in that game. And they wound up not covering. It was only because Aaron Gordon hit another shot at the buzzer, this time a meaningless one for the Nuggets, to cover the spread, which is, I believe that's what happened, which is kind of ridiculous. He has multiple buzzer beaters in the playoffs. I don't know. And that one, again, didn't matter except for covering the spread. So I don't know what to tell you about that. But that could go both ways, right? Because the Nuggets could be in a little bit of a zigzag spot because, of course, they lost that game. So they're really going to have to step it up here. But on the other hand, the Thunder should have won that game by more than they did. So it's a little bit of a misleading final score as far as how they actually played in that game. That might all be all I have to say about it. The Nuggets do have the pedigree, though. They do have more experience. So they are familiar with doing something like this. So they may still come out and put a competitive game out there tonight. So we will see. And then we do have one hockey game tonight, which I'm not going to play on this one. I did have Dallas in game 3. I've actually won on every game in the series so far on the side. I had Dallas in game 1, maybe got a little bit lucky there, but I liked the history with Dallas. Went against went with, I guess, the President's Trophy curse that Winnipeg has to deal with right now, as the President's Trophy team has not won the Stanley Cup, I think, since the 90s. So I did do that. I had Winnipeg to bounce back with a strong home ice advantage in game 2, even though, yes, they were at home in both of those games. Then going on the road, I took Dallas in game 3. Winnipeg, not quite as good on the road. Money is coming into Dallas again here. Dallas up 2-1. They're up from -142 to -144 here. 83% of tickets, 93% of the cash. I don't have that strong of a reason to disagree with it, but if you do adhere to the zigzag, Dallas, after winning a game 5-2, we could see maybe a little bit of a regression here to some extent. Is that game, you got to look at the stats in this game and say, like, was this result misleading? I think that it kind of was in a way, as all the stats in this game were actually very competitive. Pretty sure I thought there was an empty net. There was not an empty net there, but this was a 1-goal game in the third period, although Dallas did take a 2-goal lead pretty early in the third period. Had a great third period, actually. It was tied actually going into the third period. So I do think the game is a little bit closer than it looks, but Dallas is pretty good at home. I do think in this series, the home team does have more of an advantage than they would in some other series in hockey. So we will see. I'm going to stay away, but the money is coming in at Dallas again. I think the zigzag spot would kind of land you on Winnipeg there, but I will stay away. Let's go to baseball, where I have a lot going on in baseball, man. And I have a couple of games that I just left off the card that I kind of like as well. First game up, Milwaukee, Cleveland. We don't have any games in the afternoon. We have a full slate after yesterday, Monday. Some teams don't play, but I will tell you that today we do not have any situations where you have a team playing. We don't have any team that played yesterday facing a team that didn't play yesterday. I think all the teams that played yesterday started series, so there's continuing series, and the teams that didn't play yesterday are all starting new series today. I believe that is the case. Milwaukee at Cleveland. Cleveland got the first game last night 5-0, but they did use a lot of their bullpen. Quinn Priester pitching for Milwaukee. I mean, this guy, he's not good. 5 ERA, 1.66 whip. Bad stuff. Only one more strikeout than walk. I mean, that's really bad strikeout walk ratio. Nothing to really like about Priester. And in a small 12 at-bat sample size against Cleveland, he doesn't have any strikeouts against them and 2 walks, and his numbers are pretty miserable. 417 average and 1,333 OPS. Not looking good for Mr. Priester there. He's going to have to probably do some praying, I guess. Maybe confess the sins that he's about to commit in this game. And then Logan Allen on the other side. I don't know how we could trust this guy either right now. I mean, he's really just, his ERA should be worse than it is. I mean, both of these pitchers have terrible whips. 4.33 ERA, 1.67 whip. He's putting more than 1.5 base runners on per inning. Absolutely ridiculous. I had more walks and strikeouts in his most recent start. His strikeout walk ratio is terrible as well. 25-19. Doesn't strike guys out. More than 1 hit per inning. Milwaukee has never seen him before, so maybe he has a little bit of an edge in that regard, where a pitcher, the first time they face hitters, usually the pitcher has a little bit of an edge because the hitters don't know what to expect. But when you're completely ineffective like Logan Allen is, I don't even know if that's going to matter. And Cleveland used a lot of their bullpen yesterday. Milwaukee's bullpen is one of the worst in baseball. So you know where I'm going with this. I'm not going to play this one, but this would be an over or not play the game. And that's, I think, the only way that you could look at playing this game would be to the over. The total's already gone up from 8.5 juice to the under to 9. 67% of tickets on the over, but 69% of the cash on the under. Very strange that there's a huge cash percentage on the under there. I don't quite get it. My one hesitation with that would be that Milwaukee's lineup has never seen Allen before. So a little bit more of a mystery there, but I think the over is the right way to look at that game. Minnesota, Baltimore. Baltimore, they're returning over from a road trip that took them to Minnesota and then to Anaheim. So they're out on the Pacific Coast. And I always preach when you return home from a road trip in any of these daily sports, these guys are they have families to get back to. They have regular life to get back to. So returning home does add distractions into the mix there. So that first game back, the team can tend to be a little bit distracted. Minnesota, on the other hand, is actually starting a road trip with a lot of momentum as they have come off, what is this? Like 7 wins in a row, 8 wins in a row, whatever that is. And they're coming off back-to-back sweeps against the Orioles and the San Francisco Giants. But now, of course, that does mean that Baltimore might be a little bit less distracted here because Baltimore just got swept by Minnesota. So that's kind of where I have, they're the conflicting situational angles to look at here, where Baltimore's in the distraction spot returning home from a road trip, but Minnesota might take them lightly because Minnesota just swept Baltimore in Minnesota 2 series ago, and that might mean Baltimore might not take Minnesota lightly. Baltimore might be a little bit angry about that. So we have a couple of different things going on here. Minnesota, though, again, leaving home with that momentum, having a win streak. Usually you are focused when you play that first game on the road trip. Usually it is a focus spot, and usually that momentum will carry out on the road with you. But again, will they take Baltimore lightly because they just dominated them in that series? I don't know. Simeon Woods Richardson from Minnesota, 1.43 whip is really, really bad. Way too high, although he's been somehow getting away with it with a 4.01 ERA, which isn't that bad. And he's not allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start. Most of his starts, he's allowed 3 or fewer, but he does not go deep into games. He's allowed more than 1 hit per inning, which is pretty bad. His strikeout rate isn't that bad, but putting way too many men on base. However, against Baltimore, who really have been struggling to hit this year, Woods Richardson, actually, his numbers are bad against Baltimore. In 22 at-bats, a 318 average allowed, 875 OPS. So that's not good for Richardson. So there are a lot of conflicting factors here. Cade Povich on the other side of the hill for Baltimore, he has not been getting it done at all. 1.54 whip is miserable. 5.55 ERA. Bad stuff. Although in his last game, he actually went 6 innings against this Twins team. 4 strikeouts compared to no walks. So he actually had a decent performance, even though he gave up 5 runs. He actually got a little bit unlucky in that game. And against Minnesota, let me see. I think it mostly just includes that one game. It's multiple games. In 37 at-bats, 5.0 strikeout walk ratio, 189 average, 514 OPS. So the situation is kind of against Baltimore here, but there are some situational angles for Baltimore with the sweep revenge angle. And I think they have the better of the pitching matchup with Cade Povich there. And I think both teams did face these opposing pitchers in that last series. Yeah, so Woods Richardson also pitched and didn't do very well. Only went 4 2/3, and they pulled him even though his pitch count wasn't even high. 1-to-1 strikeout walk ratio. Not impressive stuff there from him. So both lineups are now recently familiar with these opposing pitchers because they just saw them. But I think Povich does have the upper hand there. So it's like, what do you want to do with this game? I don't really want to play Baltimore in the bad, return home spot, but most of the other angles and the matchup kind of all would put you on the Baltimore side. So I would kind of still have to lean that way. Baltimore up from -118 to -123. So they've moved up a little bit on the money line, but 55% of tickets, 92% of the cash coming in on Minnesota. And I don't really want to step in front of this Twins train right now either. Minnesota has been way worse on the road, though. So if you like Baltimore, that is one thing you got going for you. With Baltimore has been really bad on the road as well, but at least they're 8-9 at home. Twins are 6-14 on the road, which is not very good at all. And people are going to look at this and think, how am I getting an underdog price with this Twins team that's won 8 games in a row? They're above 500, and this Baltimore team has this horrendous record. I mean, the public, I don't think there's any way they're going to be coming in on the Baltimore side in that game. So it does seem like it would be a little bit of a fade the public situation if you do like Baltimore there. Boston and Detroit. I mean, this is what I was just ranting about. Tanner Houck with another horrendous performance. How do you have 2 11-run outings going less than 3 innings? It makes no sense. And by the way, one of his last spring training starts, he gave up 10 runs in 3 innings, which was also against Tampa Bay, which was that's who that first 11-run performance was against during the regular season. It's just ridiculous. But Tanner Houck's not on the mound today. The Red Sox are coming off an embarrassing loss, and they have Brian Bayo on the mound. But even though his 2.01 ERA looks very excellent, 1.34 whip, is pretty bad and indicates that, yeah, I mean, he's skating on thin ice here. And you can see that his last outing, he had 5 walks and 1 strikeout and somehow didn't allow any runs and only made it 4 2/3 against Texas. That was not a good start, despite not allowing any runs. I know he's not allowed many runs in any of his starts, but how can you trust this guy? A 13-12 overall strikeout walk ratio. That's not good. So I don't think you can trust this guy, man. I mean, the Red Sox expecting this guy to be like their new number 1 starter. Well, yeah, that's never going to happen. I mean, Garrett Crochet is obviously not only is he far and away their best starter, he's their only capable starter at this point. I don't think Bayo is. And up against who are we facing here? Detroit. His numbers are bad. 41 at bats sample size, 41 at bat sample size there. He's allowed a 317 average and 788 OPS to them. That's not good. So I don't think you'd do anything with Bayo here. Meanwhile, Tyler Holton is the listed starter for Detroit, and he's pitching decently, 3.12 ERA, 1.21 whip. However, what this means is that Detroit is going with a bullpen game, and they didn't use much of their bullpen yesterday, so I think that might throw the Red Sox off. Detroit, they were like the masters of this last year. They did a lot of bullpen games last year, and that's what they're going to do this time. And their manager knows how to kind of play the pitching matchups and mix and match pitchers. And with most of their bullpen being available in this game, I think he's going to be able to do that. So I probably would lean to Detroit again in this game for all those reasons. And Holton, even though he's probably only going to be in there for 1 to 2 innings, the Red Sox have not done well against him in a limited 16 at bat sample size, 188 average, 625 OPS. So I can't be on the Red Sox in that game, man. I think these bullpen games can be underrated a little bit, and I think this might be a situation where it is. Red Sox sitting at -110, so it's basically just a straight-up pick-em price here. 62% of tickets coming in on the Red Sox. I doubt that that's even true. Like, I don't know how the public could like the Red Sox here with their awful record. Detroit has, I think, probably the best record in the American League right now, and they have a really, really good home record. They're really good at home, and they're at home right now. And they got 51% of the cash on them as well, so I would only lean to Detroit. Scott, what's up, man? Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, it would be Detroit or leave the game alone there. And yes, I have 7 plays, and I do not have any in these first 4 games. Not the first 4 in March Madness, the first 4 baseball games on the schedule here. White Sox and Reds. I mean, this game, this is basically anybody's guess. I think this is a total wild card of a game here. Not a wild card playoff game, but Jonathan Cannon pitching for the White Sox. 4.09 ERA is not bad, really, but 1.45 whip is pretty bad. Putting way too many men on base. 17 walks. I mean, that walk rate is way too high, and more than 1 hit per inning. That's not good. Indicates that his ERA should be worse than it really is. Against Cincinnati, though, limited sample size. Well, actually, it's only 2 at bats. Never mind. Joe is the only guy who's ever faced him before. He's 1 for 2 with a home run. So there's really not a whole lot you can take away from that. Andrew Abbott is pitching for Cincinnati. He's certainly the better starter here with 2.25 ERA, 1.17 whip. Off to a good start to the season here for him, really. Starting to really pitch pretty well, actually, his last start was really good against the Braves with an 8-0 strikeout walk ratio, which kind of tells you he's rounding into form a little bit after he had 2 straight starts where he walked more than he struck out, which is really not good. But even with those 2 starts, his strikeout walk ratio is still 31-12, which is pretty good. However, his fly ball to ground ball rate is really bad, 41-14, and that's not really what you want when you're pitching in Great American Ballpark, where it's a fairly home run friendly ballpark here. So that's not really what you want. Up against the White Sox, very limited sample size. Only Sosa and Vaughn have ever faced him, and they're 0 for 6 with 2 strikeouts. So obviously Abbott has the edge here. Obviously the White Sox are the worst of the 2 teams, but of course Cincinnati is going to be lined that way. They're a huge favorite. Well, big favorite. Down from -201 to -193. Public as well, 98% of the tickets, only 58% of the cash. Money looks like it is coming in to some degree, taking what, I guess is perceived as some value on the White Sox. I don't really see it. I'm not going to do anything with this game, and this is one of the hardest games to read. I don't even think I really have a lean on that game. It's just obviously I think Abbott does have the upper hand in the starting pitching matchup, though. Next game up, I will have a play, and a couple of my plays are first 5s here. I actually have 3 first 5 unders, and this is one of them. I was on the under last night in the game in this series. I'm going to go under again, but I'm going to take the bullpens out of the equation this time, as neither of these bullpens is that good. I thought they were good to go to start the series here, but now that both bullpens got used a little bit more, even though, yeah, these teams are just playing through. They didn't even have any days off. But now, I think after the usage of the bullpens last night, I think we're probably going to be a little bit better off if we just exclude the bullpens here. I like the starting pitching matchup here for St. Louis and Philadelphia. Sonny Gray pitching for St. Louis. I mean, he's one of their best starters. I know Liberatore has been really good, and he was their starter last night, which is one of the main reasons I was on the under yesterday, and he pitched pretty well again. Gray, though, 3.5 ERA, 1.08 whip. He's had a very good career, and he's in nice form right now, man. Coming off a 7-inning, 2-hit shutout. Granted, it was against a bad Pirate lineup, but still 8-to-1 strikeout walk ratio over the course of the season, 47-11 strikeout walk ratio, more than one strikeout per inning and well below one hit allowed per inning. He's pitching really well. Again, 1.08 whip, very nice whip as well. And against Philadelphia, big sample size in his career, 148 at bats. He hasn't allowed any home runs to them. Let's not jinx that. And he's held him to a 230 average, 632 OPS, and has a 50-15 strikeout walk ratio. So Gray, very good pitcher, and those numbers do translate into his numbers against Philadelphia. On the other side, Jesus Luzardo having a good season, man. Although his whip may be slightly high for what I would like, 1.21, but he's really been pitching well. 2.11 ERA. Nice high strikeout rate, 51-13 strikeout walk ratio is a very good ratio. Well over one strikeout per inning, fewer than one hit per inning. Pitching really well, man. Last couple of starts, decent as well. So his form really hasn't changed. He's only allowed more than 2 earned runs once this entire season in a home start against San Francisco, who's been playing pretty decently. And against St. Louis, Luzardo has 33 at-bats against him, a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio. Also no home runs allowed, and is held to a 182 average and 418 OPS. So Luzardo actually has dominant numbers against the St. Louis hitters. So I think we have a really nice starting pitching matchup. Again, maybe I should have gone first 5 inning under with last night's game too. Either way, it would have cashed. Full game and first 500 both hit. But I want to take the bullpens out this time. It's Philadelphia. I mean, their bullpen is one of the bottom several in the league, really. St. Louis's isn't that great. And after the usage yesterday, let's not even worry about it. Let's go under in the first 5. You can get under 4 right now is out there. So that's what I'm going to do in that one. I like the starting pitching matchup. Next game, Tampa and Toronto. I'm going to be on Tampa on the money line here. You can get them as an underdog, and I just think this is a decent situational spot in the matchup is decent, even though we're not looking at good form out of our starting pitcher here, which does worry me a little bit. But Toronto has a 2-game lead over Tampa in the standings, so I do think Tampa might have a little bit more to play for here right now. Toronto, I mean, they've looked good. They just swept Seattle. But again, I think they might be in line for a little bit of a letdown here. They're returning home from the Pacific Coast and having to return to Canada and go through customs. And yeah, even though, Toronto is, of course, used to that. But even so, I think this is a bad spot, man. You're in a letdown spot after you pulled off a sweep. You finished that with a 9-1 win over a Mariners team that was really hot until you just stopped that really hot team. I think Toronto might be flying a little bit high right now. Too high in the sky. The Jays maybe flying a little bit too close to the sun. I mean, I think that they were underperforming to start the season, especially offensively. So we're starting to see them play better, which I think was expected. But again, as I say, when you're returning home from a road trip, especially a longer one that took you out to the Pacific Coast, I think you're going to be in line for a little bit of a distraction here. So I think it's a letdown spot and a distraction spot, having to return back home and deal with family life. And you're playing this Tampa Bay team that really has not been playing well. Tampa is starting a road trip coming off a loss to Milwaukee, even though they won the series. Close games in that series. I think it's actually good for Tampa Bay to just forget about that. Just go on the road. Just go out of there. I don't know when this is going to happen. Longoria apparently has signed a 1-day contract with them to retire as a Ray, which makes sense because that's pretty much where he was playing, I think, for pretty much his whole career. I mean, I'm old. I remember him playing. Good third baseman there for the Rays, Evan Longoria. So I think not Ava Longoria. that would be better, actually. Although they're both kind of hot. I don't know. But yeah, if that's happening today, that might be a little bit of a motivator for Tampa, which I think this is 12 hours ago. So I think that is the case. Neither team played yesterday. So I guess doesn't make sense that they're having him do that not at home, though, right? I mean, I don't know. Although, granted, Tampa Bay is not even playing in their own home stadium, so whatever. But either way, going out on the road, I think is a good focus spot. You get to just leave those home distractions behind, forget about it, go focus on baseball. And Tampa, yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Shane Baz, I mean, he went from pitching really well to pitching terribly, and his ERA is now up to 4.93 with a 1.33 whip after giving up 13 innings in 13 runs in 9 innings with 5 walks and only 4 strikeouts over 2 starts this month. Although one of them was against Philly, who does hit pretty well. But prior to that, he was pitching quite well in most of his starts. So he's definitely been a wild card. But overall, his stats, I think, indicate that we should get some like regression back to some sort of a mean here where he's not pitching maybe as well as he was early, but not pitching as poorly either. I mean, he did have 2 double-digit strikeout performances earlier in the season. He's got a 40-14 strikeout walk ratio. That's a good ratio. Still fewer than 1 hit per inning and more than 1 strikeout per inning. So even with 2 really bad starts, his numbers are actually not that bad as far as the strikeout walk ratio is concerned. And up against Toronto, he actually has done well against them in 37 at-bats, 11-2 strikeout walk ratio, 189 average allowed, and 447 OPS. So if Baz is going to bounce back, I think he might be able to do so here against a team that he has done well against historically. Whereas Barrios pitching for Toronto, he hasn't been pitching well, man. I mean, people are going to look at this and go, oh, his ERA is better, 3.86. This Toronto team is hot, and I think the public's going to want Toronto, but I don't agree with that. A 1.41 whip is actually really not good. On his last start, he had 5 walks, which is really, really bad. Even though the 9 strikeouts is pretty good. He did go fairly deep into those 2 starts, but he's been struggling overall. 45-21 strikeout walk ratio is quite bad. Kind of too much of a fly ball rate here, so I don't like any of that. Not very good. And then up against Tampa, his numbers actually are not great in his career. 72 at-bats, 264 average is kind of mediocre, but he's allowed 4 home runs to them. Diaz, 6 for 17 with a home run, and Aranda, 4 for 8 with 2 home runs off, and both hurt him quite a bit. 830 OPS. So I actually think that this is kind of like a hidden edge situationally and maybe in the starting pitching match for Tampa. And we get Tampa's bullpen in the equation here, and I think they have the better bullpen as well. Their bullpen's actually pretty good. It's just that obviously Toronto's offense, as they started hitting a little bit, is the better offense. But we will take Tampa in that game. Toronto's up for -115 and -126, so I am worried about some line movement there, but maybe it's like some false movements. You can get Tampa at a decent underdog price. Pittsburgh and the Mets, I definitely lean to an under in this one. I just have some slight hesitations. Both teams did play yesterday. Mets did have to use some of their better relievers yesterday. The Mets do have a pretty good bullpen. I'm a little bit worried about the bullpens. Mitch Keller does still worry me, though. The fact that he has a 1.4 whip, 4.4 ERA isn't good either, but the 1.4 whip is kind of worrisome. 35-15 strikeout walk ratio. I don't know, man. And more than 1 hit per inning as well. Kind of a high walk rate. I'm concerned about him, even though he only has 1 bad start against the Yankees, who can hit really well. 7 earned runs. Other than that, he's allowed 4 or fewer in every one of his other starts. Against the Mets, he has good numbers and 74 at-bats. He has walked 7 of them, though, which is a little bit concerning, but he has a 176 average against them, 514 OPS. So Keller does have good numbers against the Mets. And then Senga, pitching for the Mets, is really pitching well with a 1.16 whip and ERA, which is crazy. But I worry a little bit about Senga, too, because in this month he has 10 strikeouts and 8 walks. Not a good ratio. Too many walks, both against Arizona, though. Arizona can hit pretty well, so maybe it was just the matchup was a problem. I don't know, although his numbers were good against Arizona, because I think I played on Senga in that most recent game and got a win despite him walking more than he struck out, which isn't good. So I'm a little bit worried about both pitchers' strikeout walk ratios here, man. That's the one problem. Senga's been pretty unhittable, though, with well fewer than 1 hit allowed per inning. Both pitchers have good numbers against the opposing lineups. Very small sample size. Senga against Pittsburgh, 13 at-bats, 0.77 average, and 327 OPS. So really good numbers there. And Pittsburgh not very familiar with Senga. Senga should definitely have the upper hand here against a pretty weak Pittsburgh lineup as well. You're laying too much of a price to pay to play the Mets, though. I lean to the under, but I just think we can't quite get there with it. What I am going to do is I am going to play a first 5 under in the Braves game here. Washington and Atlanta. And this is Soroka against Schwellenbach. I'm going to take the bullpens out of the equation again here because mostly Washington's bullpen is so bad, you basically can never bet on them. They're terrible. So I'll take the bullpens out. Now, Soroka, the thing that I like about this is I think he's going to be extra pumped up because he was on the Braves until 2023. And yeah, he wasn't there last year, but he was in the American League on the White Sox. So he never faced the Braves. So this is going to be his first time facing the team that he spent most of his career on, the Braves, the team that got rid of him. And that's an angle that you want to look at, man. A lot of times when a pitcher faces the team that got rid of him for the first time, they tend to be pumped up and they do really well. So I actually kind of like that angle for Soroka here. And his overall career stats are not as bad as his very small sample size this season. Granted, he did not do well last year for the White Sox. He hasn't really been good since 2020. I understand that. I don't know if he was injured or somewhere else or what, but he hasn't been good since he's come back. Even his whip in 2020 wasn't that good, but still overall, because most of his sample size was 2019, which was a good season for him with Atlanta. He's got a 1.25 whip over his career, which isn't that bad. 3.78 ERA, 7.2 ERA on the season, 1.3 whip. Yeah, those aren't good numbers, but 11-3 strikeout walk ratio isn't that bad. He's got more than one strikeout per inning, so he's kind of spread out the damage, kind of limited it a little bit. Last start, 8-2 strikeout walk ratio. So even though he allowed 4 earned runs really in each start, I think he actually got a little bit unlucky because he only allowed 5 hits and 3 walks over that span. So that's not that bad. And against the Braves hitters, they've barely seen him, and they're 2 for 11 off him with a couple of strikeouts. So 182 average, 455 OPS. So I think Soroka will be extra pumped up and will be fine here. Then on the other side, I mean, Spencer Schwellenbach pitching for the Braves, probably their best starter at this point. 3.61 ERA, 1.12 whip. 10-3 strikeout walk ratio this month. So he bounced back after a bad start against the Dodgers, but I think you could forgive a bad start against one of the best lineups in baseball. The Dodgers, he bounced back with a nice shutout performance. They're not a shutout. He gave up 1 unearned run against Cincinnati, I went 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, pretty good. So he's rounding back into form, and overall his numbers are really good. 43-9 strikeout walk ratio, fewer than 1 hit per inning. I mean, he's got it going, obviously. And Washington actually has not really seen much of him, which is crazy. I think Washington pretty much just hasn't faced him before. In 9 at-bats, I mean, they're only 2 for 9, so 222 average, 556 OPS. So I like the starting pitching matchup in that one. We're going to go under in that one. You're actually getting a high total, where I think the game total is actually only like 8.5, and you're getting 4.5 with a little bit of a price, minus 115 in the first 5 innings. I actually think there is some value there, and you get to exclude the Washington bullpen. So we're going to do that. We're going to go under in the first 5 innings there. Miami and the Cubs, I mean, I don't know what to do with this game. I do see that there's money coming in, I think, on the under in this game, but I don't really see why. I wouldn't trust Beozo at all, really, for Miami. 1.33 whip indicates his 3.5 ERA should probably be worse than it is, although he has only had 1 really bad start where he allowed 5 earned runs against the A's, bounced back and actually had a really nice 1-hit performance against the Dodgers with 7 strikeouts. So that actually does kind of tell you, well, maybe this guy does have something, but overall 14-10 strikeout walk ratio, really bad ratio. I just don't think we can trust him. And against the Cubs, they're 7 for 15 off him with 3 home runs. Suzuki is 2 for 2 with 2 home runs off him. Crow Armstrong 1 for 1 with a home run off him. 5 walks and only 1 strikeout against him, a 467 average and 1,800 OPS. So the Cubs, really good lineup, has pretty much dominated Beozo in a limited sample size. And Ben Brown on the other side, putting up some pretty bad numbers, 4.95 ERA, 1.65 whip. Although he is settling down in May with a 13-2 strikeout walk ratio, only 3 runs allowed in 11 innings pitched. So that's pretty good. And Miami's basically never seen him. They're 0 for 1 off him lifetime. So Brown, I think, is the better of the 2 pitchers and does have the upper hand there. Of course, the Cubs are going to be a huge favorite because they're the way better offensive team, even though their bullpen isn't very good. So you're laying way too much of a price with the Cubs there. And the money is actually coming back on Miami. 53% of the cash on Miami, 70% of tickets on the Cubs, up from minus 225 to minus 248. Looks like a lot of the money coming in the under. Like I said, it's down from 8.5 to 8.5 juice the under. 56% of the tickets are on the over. 98% of the cash on the under. And again, I don't really quite understand that. So, I mean, do with that what you will, but I guess it must be because there's probably wind blowing in, because this is Wrigley Field where the wind really has an effect. I think it's kind of that lake effect in northern Chicago there. So if the wind is blowing in, it really can kind of knock fly balls down. And if it's blowing out, you tend to get a much higher total. So I think we must have a situation where the wind is blowing in here, because I don't see how otherwise there could be that much money coming in on an under with a pitching matchup like this. But we'll see what happens there. And I think, let me save the rest for tonight, man. So we'll save the rest for tonight. I'll tell you what else I have. I'm going to do what we're not supposed to do and lay -1.5 run lines with two teams. I'm going to do it with Texas. I'll explain why tonight. I have another first 5 under in Kansas City, Houston, under full game in Yankees, Seattle. That's under 7, by the way. And Kansas City, Houston is under 4 at even money. And then another -1.5 run line on San Diego, which you can get at a plus money there. And I'll explain why I like all that tonight. And again, we got the Cleveland Cavs minus the points, under first 5 innings, under 4 in St. Louis and Philadelphia in baseball. Tampa Bay Rays as an underdog, under first 5 innings, under 4.5 with Washington and Atlanta are the other plays. And I'll give you the analysis on the rest of them tonight. I will be back, in the evening. We'll do another evening show. I mean, I can't believe I can't get this done in the morning, man. I thought I was going to be able to get this one done. Oh, only one hockey game today? Well, my rants are, just taking up too much time. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, man. I might just have to jump off a bridge or something at this point, because the fucking Celtics can't live anywhere near up to expectations. And what can you even do? Brown is playing with a knee injury. Porzingis is not healthy. Tatum is now hurt, so it's fucking over. We might bet on them in the next game, but it's still fucking over. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang, and go get Bro Grove tickets, man, and go meet up with us in late June. Peace out for now, man. I'll be back this evening.